You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure, smash that like button. Phil Steele right now is going through his lists and all of his previews of top position groups and top freshmen and so on and so forth. And lists are lists, and I kind of at times poo-poo lists here, and with good reason. I'll tend to put more credence into what Phil Steele says because it's not really Phil's opinion. It's Phil who, if you listen to him when he comes on the show, he's got his algorithm. He plugs all the data into his computers, and his computers spit out rankings and betting lines and odds and all different types of stuff. So when Phil puts this out there, it's not just like, well, this is someone whose opinion you trust. It's the fact that he's using objective metrics here, that how he puts together all of his handicapping and all of that sort of stuff. And so today, Phil Steele put out his list of the top freshman defensive backs in the country. So this is cornerbacks and safeties. And there was an LSU player on it. It was Deshaun McBride, who was number 24. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, that of all the freshmen, I think McBride is probably the guy, maybe along with Dom McKinley, just because of the position he plays and the need for LSU at defensive tackle. I think those are the guys that I'm most interested in watching. And look, we can make an argument for cornerback as well. But, and I'm going to have to correct myself, and I think we're all going to struggle with this, at least for a time. So Deshaun McBride is now going by Deshaun Spears. They've officially changed that on the LSU website. So Deshaun McBride from Denham Springs is now going by Deshaun Spears. This is going to be my 18th season covering LSU football. And I can tell you one of the commonalities that I have happen every year when we go out for fall camp, we get our first look at fall camp. I always, on the first day, want to see what freshmen physically stand out. The reason is because you hear about these guys in recruiting for sometimes years. And then they finally get on campus and they're in an LSU uniform. Well, what do they look like? Because I'm not the guy like many of you who aren't going to a lot of different high school games and know what these guys look like. And there's always guys that physically stand out. Like I can tell you the names, like boom, right from jump that it jumped out to me. Patrick Peterson was a no-brainer. You looked at him physically and you're like, he looks like a freshman linebacker playing corner. Terrence Tolliver, coming in at 6'5", 6'6". He was so long, he looked like a pterodactyl. That was incredible watching Terrence Tolliver the first day. Corey Thompson, if you remember back to 2011 when LSU missed out on Landon Collins and the big miss on signing day miss, they ended up replacing him with Corey Thompson, who they flipped from Texas A&M. And Corey Thompson was built like an Adonis. He just had an injury-plagued career at LSU. He was a very good player, just had an injury-plagued time at LSU. Well, now that fall camp sort of eye test has kind of been bumped a little bit to like a spring early enrollee eye test because so many of the freshmen show up early now in spring. That's just what's happened over the last decade or so in college football. And I can tell you, looking at Deshaun McBride in spring, it reminded me of looking like Eric Reed. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that Deshaun McBride is going to be a first-team All-American before his career starts. He may go on to be a first-team All-American and a first-round draft pick. I don't know. But I'm just saying physically. And so I went back and checked today. When Reed graduated Dutchtown, he was 6'2", 210. McBride, finishing Denham, was 6'3", 202. So an inch taller, about 8 pounds lighter, but very comparable physically at that point in their career. Eric Reed was the number 6 safety in the country. Deshaun McBride, the number 7 safety in the country. Eric Reed was the number 58 overall player in the composite. McBride was the number 96 player in the composite, but 247 rated him 54th best overall. So you're talking about two guys that a decade apart are very, very comparable prospects coming out of their local Baton Rouge area high school, coming to LSU playing safety. Blake Baker emphasizes the safety position. I know I've mentioned this before, but his 2 years as DC, Blake Baker's the linebacker coach, but in his 2 years as the defensive coordinator at Missouri, Both years, the top 2 leading tacklers at Missouri were safeties. So the way that defense is structured, and certainly the way it was structured at Missouri, it emphasized the opportunity for the safety position. So I'm looking at Sage Ryan, who's played in 31 career games with a dozen starts. I'm looking at Jordan Gilbert, who's played in 25 career games with a dozen starts, as guys in this defense with an amazing opportunity. But I also, speaking of Eric Reed, remember when he was a freshman in that 2010 defense, Eric Reed played in all 13 games that year, but he didn't start until the final 3. And sometimes it's injury, or sometimes it's just coming of age, and sometimes you look and you say, yeah, I just can't justify not having that guy on the field anymore. And I don't know if that'll happen with Deshaun McBride or Deshaun Spears, but that's a guy who I think there's a very real possibility that by the time you get to November, his role in this defense is dramatically more than it's going to be when LSU plays USC in Las Vegas, because he looks the part physically. He's a smart player, and you can tell this coaching staff likes him a lot, and he's going to be one to watch in fall camp. And Phil Steele seems to like him a lot. Deshaun McBride or Deshaun Spears, freshman safety at LSU, Phil Steele's got in the top 25 freshman defensive backs. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.